All right, so it's funny you saw Annihilation because it was literally between this and game night, and it just came down to which was at a more convenient time to go to the movies.
For you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that literally was why I was like, whatever is, because I was like, I want to get out of the house. I'm just gonna see a movie right now. Whatever's first. And I'm like, game night, you win.
Oh, man.
So I really wanted to see this too, especially because Alex Garland was directing. So
You definitely missed something.
that's what I've been hearing.
Yes.
So give me your overall.
I guess, this is going to be a very misleading way of giving a review, but I liked it because, it's a good movie, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of it is good. Alex Garland, of course, directed this, and I think he wrote it too. But it's based on a novel. It's based on a novel called Annihilation, written by a guy named Jeff Vandermeer. And I saw Ex Machina, and you loved it. I liked it. I actually loved it for the first 3/4. But the ending bothered me so much. It just was such a bummer. But that's just a preference thing for me.
Whatever, yeah.
This, in many ways, is similar to that because I think for this movie, the first 3/4 of it are fantastic, and the ending for me is, while not a bummer, it's not fantastic. But I do like this movie a little bit more than Ex Machina.
That's blasphemy.
I know. I just a little, just a skosh, and it's weird, but I will explain it.
Without giving
anything
much
away,
away,
because there are things to be given away in this movie, and it's while you won't understand it, you will be spoiled, because even after seeing this movie, I don't really understand a lot of it. But for the first 3/4 of it, you're given a good story. It's just there's a lot going on character-wise, structurally. They do some flashing back and flashing forward. There's some great visuals, some great set pieces. Pretty much from the moment that you learn what this thing is, that's, infecting this region of Florida that it takes place in, onward, it's like a damn good movie. And it's like really, really, really intriguing and scientifically like fascinating. And I liked a lot. Once you learn like the conceit of like what's going on in this place, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. Until the ending, when you're kind of like, I thought I got it. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. I think it's a good film, and it definitely should be seen by a lot of people.
Okay, so basically, though, it's just about these explorers have to find out why this weird like bubble area is so messed up.
Right.
And it's like mutating all the animals, right?
Yeah, and it's growing. So they got to figure out there's not like it's not a ticking clock, but it is like, eventually this thing is going to consume everything.
Okay, so were the creatures cool?
Yeah. There's not so many. There's only a few. I guess we'll call them creatures, because there are things towards the end that come about that I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but
okay.
There are creatures in here, and I will say, sadly enough, most of them are spoiled in the trailers.
Okay.
But there are things about the creatures that they learn or that they find out that aren't spoiled. Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a couple like features or like adaptations that some of these creatures have, kind of adapted rather, and they're really neat ideas and like scientifically interesting.
Okay, so this is definitely more of a hard sci-fi.
It's weird. If I could define like the first like 3/4 of this movie, it's kind of like Arrival meets like Predator, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like a sci-fi horror, but thriller also.
Okay, so how's the pacing?
For a lot of people, the pacing was a problem. A lot of people found it hard to get into the first few minutes. I didn't. I thought it was fine. I thought Natalie Portman's character was fine.
What about the other characters?
I thought they were also fine, but I can understand how some people could have problems with them, particularly with Jennifer Jason Leigh and Gina Rodriguez's characters, who I think some people could say weren't performed very well. I wouldn't, but I get how some people could, because Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is like very kind of apathetic and kind of dry and like almost just kind of, she just like doesn't have any life left in her, and there's a reason for why that is. You find out later, but my girlfriend who I saw it with was super annoyed by it. Gina Rodriguez, kind of, her character is very emotive and expressive, so her character is just very loud. These things didn't bother me. I could see how they bothered people. Overall, I thought the characters were fine.
Okay. What about since it was directed by Alex Garland, any noticeable sort of similarities between Ex Machina? Any auteur kind of things?
I guess, there's stuff obviously like Oscar Isaac is in this, who's also in Ex Machina. Okay. But I guess, mostly the ending, which is like, I can see this ending is going to polarize people. Not necessarily because of the content or like what happens or if it's a happy ending or a sad ending, but it's just like the interpretations of it are going to really, it's almost like Mother, where it's like, I feel like that movie is like a great personality test.
Well, hold on. You're comparing this to Mother. Do you want people to see this or not?
Well, no, it's like, it's not as bad as Mother in terms of like shock value, but like it goes to lengths and leaps in ways that Mother did.
Okay, but are these lengths and leaps like within like what a sane person could find entertaining?
Oh yeah, it's like it's lengths and leaps that like a 2001 would do.
Okay,
or like
that's when you were saying this stuff, and I was reading all these like little blurbs people were like, without even trying to like, because I was trying to avoid spoilers, but I just kept seeing people write things and the word was popping up, psychedelia.
Yeah, it definitely is psychedelic, mostly because on a visual standpoint, and especially at the end. But it makes a couple leaps, and my problem with the ending is that it expands on the story. We're left in suspense for the first part of the movie for so long, and then we learn what happens, and then the ending happens, and it gives you so much information, and it doesn't explain any of it.
So sort of too little, too late.
Kind of like too much, too late, and like doesn't
too late.
Yeah, and like doesn't explain any of it. It's just there's a lot that happens, and like it's just kind of taken for granted. And it's like, are we going to talk about like what the hell just happened? Because what the hell just happened? Like, and it's cool while you're watching it, but while you're watching it, you're under the pretense that it's like, okay, they're going to explain this, right? And then like the movie ends, and you're like, they didn't. But it's a frustrating movie because like there's a lot in it that's really cool.
Okay.
Like really cool stuff. Like the visuals are cool. I thought the scientific concepts were really cool. There's some really scary scenes. There's some violent scenes, messed up images that are like kind of awesome.
How was Oscar Isaac?
He was good. He is like, his character's complicated.
Okay.
For more reasons than one, but his character is great. I also didn't mention this. There's a Crosby, Stills and Nash song in the movie that they use quite frequently, and I was like, I don't see a lot of love for Crosby, Stills and Nash in modern cinema. So I was like, cool.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. So my most important question is, how does this compare to the other film with the word Annihilation in its title? And I'm of course talking about Mortal Kombat 2 Annihilation.
Well, it's not as good.
Okay. That's obviously that's what I figured.
Come on, I mean,
that's what I figured.
It needn't be said. It needn't be uttered.
It's an unfair comparison. You're right.
Right. But
I do have actual questions.
Okay.
Too.
I was going to approach that question. I was going to be like, well, they're they didn't I don't know. The effects are a little better. Like.
Was there any unnecessary front flips?
Yeah, no, not enough. If I'm being truthful about it.
Yeah, you see Hollywood. That's what you need more of: unnecessary front flips.
Let it be known that Alex Garland's Annihilation is the second best Hollywood film with the word annihilation in it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
But there was something kind of interesting. Is this seemed like it was picking up sort of a good amount of steam heading into its release. But the box office was not really that. It was not good.
No, it sucked. And I think that has a lot. I think you're right. I think it is due in large part to that like fumbled release, because I know this was supposed to, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this supposed to come out last year, like last October or November?
Maybe, I don't
Definitely
know.
earlier in this year. And I think I know the reason why that was we mentioned it earlier on, which was David Ellison, who I think was involved with the worldwide distribution of this, like after one of the test screenings, which got horrible test screenings. It tested horribly. Was like, we need to reshoot this movie and change the ending. And Alex Garland was like, no.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
it was actually Scott Rudin who also produced this, stood by Alex Garland, was like, yeah, no, we're not going to do this. We're not changing the ending. We're not going to sacrifice this dude's vision. So David Ellison was like, later, I'm out. And Netflix stepped in and was like, we'll distribute it internationally. And that's kind of what happened. And I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot that way.
So do you think we'll see a director's cut at some point?
I don't know. Well, it doesn't sound like they cut anything. It sounds like this is what Alex Garland intended. This is the product he intended. But it does feel like it feels like there's a lot of answers to questions that are in the movie, but maybe got cut out. I don't know. There's a lot going on in this thing.
So what would you score it?
I'd give it like a 7.25 out of 10. Like, it's better than just an entertaining watch. Like, it for 75% of this movie, it's an 8 out of 10. And then as soon as the ending happened, I had to drop it a lot.
Okay, so this pulls what's it called? Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Yeah, well,
'cause,
maybe not as dire, but
yeah, because that's one of it's just when you mention a movie where you're like with it the whole time, and then like the ending, you're like, well, obviously for different reasons,
yeah.
I would imagine, but like one of those movies where it's just like a significant drop at the end.
Yeah, and I liked, and to be clear, by the ending, I mean like just like how this movie concludes, like the last 10 minutes. I liked it. It's just I would have liked more explanation as to what was going on, and like just a little bit more insight as to what it means, you know?
Okay, so you're saying, I mean, there's a lot of movies coming up, so I might not see this in theaters. Is it worth it? Is it something I should go out of my way?
I'm interested. As I mentioned Mother. Like, I'm interested to have you see it almost like in a Mother way, where it's like this movie would act. I think this movie acts as an interesting personality test, because like if you watch someone react to this movie in a theater, I feel like you could learn a lot about them as a person.
Well, what were the murmurs with the people you saw it with?
Well, I mean, my girlfriend, for one, like at the end of the movie, she just like threw her hands up in the air and was like, the fuck? She just like, what the fuck was that?
It's like literally threw her hands up, just stood up.
Yeah,
What the fuck
and
is
like
this?
looking around, like there were some other people who were like head tilted to the side, like just kind of squinting their eyes, like what? And like other people were just kind of like nodding, like silently, like kind of smiling to themselves. And it's like,
were those the self assured, like, ha, I understood.
yeah,
you know,
right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, agreed.
So true.
Indubitably.
That's
yes,
what
quite.
I would have loved for a so true, man. So true.
Totes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and it not to the degree that Mother, where it's like some people were walking out or getting pissed off or screaming at the screen, but it's like, this is a different movie. It's a provocative movie in ways that I think on a story level, it's like it does things where I'm like, yeah, I haven't really seen that in a movie before yet.
All right, so if I were strolling through the theater, and I still gotta see Early Man.
Oh yeah,
which is a claymation children's movie.
Yes, it's
so it's not exactly Shakespeare.
No.
So between, what do I see, man?
And you've seen Black Panther, you've seen Game Night.
Yeah, and basically the only things left for February that I'm super interested in are this and Early Man, but also this weekend, Red Sparrow's out. So I think that's something I want to see.
I would say I haven't seen Red Sparrow or Early Man, but based on what I saw in Annihilation, I'd say it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you're such a big fan of Ex Machina.
See, that was the thing, is I wasn't really super on board after the trailer. Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't be had it not been Alex Garland, but I'm like, you know what? Because Ex Machina was so good, like I'm gonna give this guy the seal of approval, and I'll just trust in him that this will be a good movie.
Yeah, and I think it definitely is a good movie, but it's just very It's very thought-provoking.
Okay, so Robert saw a weird movie and has a weird ending.
Yes.
And it sounds like it might ruin the movie based on what I'm hearing. I don't know. We'll see. You know, I'll see it. Okay.
Maybe we'll have a follow-up if you do.
Yeah, maybe we will switch movies and see how it goes.